Okay, so today we are going to use area models and partial products to multiply mixed numbers. So let's backtrack a little bit and remind ourselves how area models and partial products work. So we have an area model here that shows 28 times 6. And remember, we break up our area model by our tens place and our ones place. And then our other factor is vertically. Since it's only 6, we have no tens place, we just have a ones place. So then we do what is 20 times 6, and we write in that that is 120. And then we do what is 6 times 8, and we write in that that is 48. So then we're not done there. Now I have two partial products. I have 120 and 48. What do I have to do with those two products is add them up. So I have 120 plus 48, and that gives me 168. So we know that 28 times 6 equals 168. And I know we've been doing traditional multiplication for a while, so this may take you back. I know you've done this before in younger grades. But this is how we are going to multiply mixed numbers. So let's use what we know to apply it to multiplying mixed numbers. So here, for example, I have 4 2/3 times 7. So this time I'm not breaking it up by our tens and our ones place. I'm breaking it up with our whole number and then our fraction. And then vertically, I only have a whole number since my second factor only has a whole number. So then we're going to think to ourselves, what is 4 times 7 for this box? And then for the smaller box, what is 2/3 times 7? Okay, so our first step is, what is 4 times 7? Well, that is 28. So we're going to write that in our area model here. And then for our second box, we have to think about what is 2/3 times 7. So remember, when we multiplied a fraction with a whole number in Unit 3 and Unit 5, we know to put a 1 in our denominator. So we're really doing what is 2 times 7, which is 14. And then what is 3 times 1, which is 3. So we could call this box 14/3, or we could call it, how many times does 3 go into 14? It goes in 4 whole times with 2 left over. Remember, your remainder goes in your numerator and your denominator stays a 3. So we're not done. Remember, our final step is to add up our products. So we have 28 plus, since we simplified it to 4 2/3, I'm going to write it as 4 2/3. If you wrote it as 14/3, that would be okay also, but let's get in the habit of simplifying. So if we add our whole numbers of 28 and 4, That gives us 32. And then our fraction is just 2/3, since there's no other fraction with 28. So we can figure out that 4 2/3 times 7 is 32 2/3. Not too bad, right? Let's look at another one. This time, we have a mixed number times a mixed number. So remember, we split up our whole number and our fraction horizontally. So we're going to go ahead and split up our whole number and fraction horizontally. And if you notice, I'm always making this side of the box smaller since I'm trying to show that the fractional amount is smaller. So just visually, I'm making it smaller. But it's okay if they're equal size also. And then on my vertical side, I'm going to break up my 2. So this looks like the last one we just did when it's just a mixed number times a whole number. But this time it's not just 2, it's 2 1/3. So I have to draw a line going horizontally to make another row for 1/3. So this time I have 4 partial products to multiply. So this is going to have a lot of work to go with it, and I expect to see a lot of work on your math journal and home link pages also. We cannot do this without showing our work. So to start off, we're doing this first box. So we're doing 1 times 2. So I'm going to go ahead and write that over here as one of my partial products. I do want to see your partial products listed. 1 times 2. And then for my second box here, I'm doing 3/4 times 2. And when I come down to this row, I'm doing 1, because it's still in 1, times 1/3. And then our final box is going to be 3/4 times 1/3. So we do have quite a bit of work with all these partial products. So let's start from the top. 1 times 2. Well, that's pretty simple. That's just 2. So let's write that in that box because 1 times 2 is 2. Then we have 3/4 times 2. Well, don't forget, this whole number is really over 1. So let's put that over 1 and then multiply across just like we do with fractions. So 3 times 2 is 6. And 4 times 1 is 4. So 6/4, or we know that 4 goes into 6 one whole time with 2 left over. So I could also call it 1 2/4, which is what I'm going to call it here. 1 2/4. Then we have 1 times 1/3. Well, anything times 1 we know is going to equal itself. So that is just 1/3. And then we have 3/4 times 1/3. So then we have 3, and then we have 12. So we have 3/12. Okay, we're not done. Remember, our final step is to add these all up. In order to add